Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR for short, was created by the United Nations. It was drafted by representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds from all regions of the world. It is a common standard of achievements for all peoples and all nations. It sets out for the first time fundamental human rights which are to be universally protected, and it has been translated into over 500 languages. The UDHR was adopted by the United Nations on the 10th of December 1948 at the Palais des Chaillot in Paris. The United Nations was created by the UDHR to better promote peace and equality throughout the world. With the UDHR, there was a universally recognized set of rights and responsibilities which all first world countries and almost all countries in the world abide by. Before these were introduced, countries were able to choose what rights their citizens had and didn't have, which often created inequality and poor living conditions for citizens of that country. Despite the Universal Declaration of Human Rights being put in most countries around the world, there are still horrible examples of these rights being violated. One of the biggest offenders in this is with regard to proper working conditions. Many labor-focused, predominantly Asian countries are often rightly accused of not giving their workers suitable and safe working conditions. A prime example of this was in Bangladesh in 2013. Factory owners ignored blatant safety warnings about the conditions of their factories, which led to over 1,000 factory worker deaths. Sadly, this is a common situation with many factories in the East, and something which must be done in order to prevent these clear human rights issues from continuing throughout the world. On June 30th, 2013, mobs of protesters against the president's election sexually assaulted 91 women. This is something which must stop, as it goes against Articles 3 and 5 of the UDHR, which states that everyone has the right to security and no human will be subjected to cruel and degrading treatment. Article 2 of the UDHR is something still sadly not complied with consistently around the world. This states that every human has the right to choose their own religion without fear of discrimination. Yet in 2013, 28 children had been hacked to death, as well as tens of thousands of Muslims being refused humanitarian aid purely for their religion. These are all prime examples of cases in which people's core human rights are being violated. Ignorance is bliss. That is sadly the mentality being taken by many people around the world with regards to human rights. People in first world countries often don't contribute whatsoever toward the fight for equal human rights around the world because they believe that they are impacted by them. However, human rights being implemented fully around the world will result in a better world for everyone. Articles 3 and 5 of the UDHR are still frequently violated. Just Google Rape 2017 and you'll get thousands of stories about horrifying acts which people have committed not just in third world countries, but around the world. This proves that human rights around the world is still an issue which has not yet been addressed and is still extremely relevant, not just in third world countries, but around the world. Marching has often been the most used method throughout history used to obtain civil rights in countries. Large-scale marches has brought movements like women's rights, the civil rights movement, the rights for gays to marry, which still hasn't been implemented in all countries, and the right for women to pursue an education. Modern-day methods of obtaining civil rights, however, often use technology instead of going onto the street of your city to join protests. Examples of this include the popular online petition website change.org and utilizing services such as social media to get your message to a more global audience. Suffragettes were women who campaigned on the right for women to vote in the 19th century and early 20th century. These women joined together to join large-scale protests throughout America and were spearheaded by women such as Lucy Stone. The African-American civil rights movement from 1954 to 1968 was one of the largest movements in history, which was designed to end racial discrimination, in addition to being given full citizen rights so that they would be protected by the Constitution. Marching the streets has been an effective form of attempting to attain civil rights and freedoms. It has been used by a wide variety of groups, from suffragettes to the African-American civil rights movement to protests against Donald Trump being president. As long as there are enough people joining the march, they are more often than not effective. However, even with millions of people joining, they have not always been effective. A perfect example of this is with the massive amounts of protests which have taken place in America after Donald Trump was elected president. Despite millions taking to the streets to protest against his presidency with the popular saying, "Trump is not my president," they were ineffective, and he was inaugurated the following month. This shows that despite millions protesting it, they didn't end up changing anything because he was elected fairly and in accordance with the American legal system. Two strategies which could be used by Australian citizens to fight for equal human rights are setting up an online petition as well as boycotting companies which don't show support towards your cause. Setting up an online petition is free, easy to create, and allows millions of people to see and support it. You could use a website such as change.org to accomplish this. However, by doing this, non-frequent internet users will not learn about your petition, which can negatively impact the viewership which your petition receives. Boycotting companies which don't support your cause can cause these companies financial hardship, which would more than likely make them support your cause. If a company supports a cause, that will likely make many others support it also, due to the contacts in the media which that company have. This isn't perfect, however, as if you are unable to get enough people to boycott the company with you, you'll be unable to cause enough financial hardship for the company to change their stance on the particular issue.